guys, what is up? It's your girl Grace Tori, and I am back with a whole new podcast episode. Today we are going to be talking about how to find your career, the job you feel like you are meant to be doing, what you're passionate about, kind of that place where like passion and what you're good at aligns. Specifically after college, I think everything I talk about can apply to anyone who's younger and just like trying to figure out what they want to do with their life. I just personally went through this after I went through college, so for the experience side of things, that's what it's going to align with more. But either way, stick around and enjoy. Before I jump in, don't forget to follow or subscribe or whatever on whatever platform you are listening or watching on. Also, don't forget to leave a rating, a review, or a like. It would mean so much. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump on in. I'm Grace Tori, and you're listening to That Girl the Podcast. Grab a beverage of choice and settle in, because the new episode is starting now. I think that before we jump in, there's two mindsets that we need to address. So the first one is working to live, and the second one is living to work. I think that for me, when you're looking for a career, I personally believe you're looking for something that you love, that you enjoy, that speaks to you or whatever. So you are living to work in a sense. Whereas when you do a job simply because it pays well, maybe you enjoy it, but it's not your favorite thing in the world, it keeps you going, that is working to live. So, like I said, we're going to be looking at more of a career that's passionate, that you want to do, that you feel called to do, and so that is going to be more of the living to work mindset, where you love your job, you wake up every morning excited to be there, and overall, it feels like it's what you're meant to be doing. So maybe not every day it's your favorite thing ever, but for the most part, you live to work, you love it, it's one of your favorite things. So, yeah. I think that before I should jump in, I should give you a little bit of my background, kind of my experience and how I've ended up here. Nothing too crazy. It's just like going to be a short little summary if you are new here. So I got my undergraduate degree. I got 2 degrees in 2021, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew like going into my senior year that I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had some ideas, but I was also graduating at the beginning of 2021, so there wasn't a ton of opportunities at the time. A lot of things I wanted to do were closed down, or it wouldn't be the best experience that the world had to offer, essentially. So I decided to go back and do the 1-year master's program that my university had. So I kind of felt like I wasn't done cooking, so to speak, and I needed a little bit more time in the oven to cook and kind of learn what I wanted. That's like the metaphor I use when it comes to like colleges. It's like cooking you so that you can be ready to go when you graduate. And yeah, I felt like I needed another year. So I went back, did my master's, and graduated in 2022 with that. And I feel like there is this misconception that is heavily spun and fed to you by college that when you graduate, life is going to be grand. Because you got this degree, life is going to be easy. You're going to have money, everything's going to fall into place. All you have to do is get this degree, and then everything's going to be perfect, amazing. Life's going to make sense. You're immediately going to make money, and the world is your oyster, which to an extent is true. You do have a lot more options when you get a degree. So you do have more options to make money like quicker than if you were to just jump at it with no experience and no degree. Experience is also very important. And then on top of that, especially like it just depends a lot on your field. So if you're in a field where you have to have a degree, like obviously it is something you do have to do, but there are a lot of options where you don't have a degree and having a degree helps. So anyway, I can go on a tangent about that all day. This is really focusing on after college, so we're not going to talk about the different things you can do with your degree and kind of talk about college. That can be a whole other episode. If you really want me to do that, just comment down below and I can give you all the ins and outs. That is something I definitely know a lot about. But anyway, I think for me, all 3 degrees I got were very wide. Like I could do a lot with them. So one of them is in horses. So that one's probably the most niche out of all of mine. The second one is in community and leadership development. So it's like the psychology behind leadership, as well as sociology and how to be a good leader and things like that. So you can apply that to pretty much anything. And then I got my master's in business, which is one that you can apply to anything. So when I graduated, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. Like I have no idea. Originally I wanted to do equine research, but after COVID and everything, it became a little bit more, like a little bit harder to do, and I just realized that wasn't the path I wanted to go down. So I was like, well, what do I do now? And as you guys know, I started the podcast for the people who were also struggling with this, but I have grown a lot since then and never really talked about this progress in terms of finding my career since I first started the podcast. Jumped into the first job that offered me a position, and I found very quickly that I hated it, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But now we're going to kind of jump into how to know if you're going to like a job, if you're going to hate a job, and my tips and tricks. I'm still on the path to being 100% where I want to be, but at least I know where I want to go and I have a clear step to get there, which is what I'm going to jump into. So, as I mentioned, your job may not come overnight. For some people it will. If you want to be a nurse or something like that where it's a little bit more straightforward and you know without a hesitation in your mind that's what you want to do, then yeah, it's probably going to come pretty quickly for you. You apply for a job, you become a nurse, and you know, it's very straightforward. If you want to be a teacher, kind of the same thing, where when you graduate, you apply for a teaching job, you get your teaching job, and so on. So this is more for the people who don't know, and it's not that simple. It's not that straightforward. So, like I said, I have a feeling that if you're listening to this, you have no idea what you want to do, and to a certain extent, I'm still in the same boat. I'll get to that, but I know what you're going through. I definitely have been there. So it's gonna sound kind of woo-woo, but a lot of it is doing what feels right at the time. Your body is very good at telling you yes or no to certain things. You just have to listen. So if you get an opportunity and you feel like it's a bad idea, or you just feel like no, and this isn't like a situation where you're like, oh, I have to be brave and do something I haven't done before. This is your body is like, no, we shouldn't be doing this. And you know in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, I don't feel like this is a good idea. Like, I don't feel like this is what I'm meant to be doing. Then listen to that. I know that you're taught to take any job offer that comes your way, and you're taught to try new things, and yes, you should be doing that. But if your body and yourself, you know deep down that it's not what you want to do, then don't waste your time. Do not waste your time, because something that is more aligned with what you want to do is going to come, and you can't accept that, or you can't wait. Like, you're not going to be available to do it if you're taking a position that you know is not meant for you. So listen to your body. It's pretty obvious when it's a yes and when it's a no. You just have to be willing to listen. You just really need to learn to have the courage and ability to know yourself and know what's right for you. Another thing is, some things may seem like a yes and you do it for a while, but you also know that it's not what you want to do long term. And that's fine. Like, it can seem like a yes, and you can know that even though you're doing it for the time being, it's not what you want to do long term. And you should still go for those positions, because you could be learning new skills, you could be learning about yourself, you could find out that it is what you're meant to be doing, it wasn't what you thought it was in the beginning. If it seems like a yes, then go for it. Like, you should be putting yourself out there and trying new things and applying for things that you think you might possibly enjoy, and listen to yourself, listen to your thoughts, and if it seems like something you genuinely want to do and you feel like it's a yes, then do it. Because even if you don't feel like it's something you're going to be doing for the next 20 years, one, it could change. Two, you're going to learn so many invaluable lessons from that. And I think that I've definitely had situations like that where I've learned so much, but even from day one, I knew, like, this is not what I want to be doing forever. But I've made so many friends, I've learned some new things, I've tried some new things out, I've really, really broadened my resume simply because it felt like a yes at the time, and I followed that calling, and it brought me to that place. So definitely follow your intuition. One thing that is really daunting, and I know that it's kind of anxiety inducing, is to do research on what's out there. So one thing that I have always wanted to do is be a writer. But when you Google how to be a writer, how to be a published author, it's not that simple. Like, it's 101 ways that someone has told you no. Like, you're literally, like, it's like, don't do it, but you have to do it this way. And there's really no real answer, like, no step-by-step. And so it requires a lot of research. And on top of that, I've had to reach out to people who are authors, like, in my city and say, hey, can we grab lunch? Would you be willing to help me? And there's a lot of things that people think they're not capable of doing, like being a writer, being a podcaster, being a journal it. Like, there's so many things that people off the bat write off and say, I can't do that, because it's hard to get into it and it requires a lot more research than just going on LinkedIn and applying for a job. And I think that that's doing yourself a disservice, as well as doing the community a disservice, because if it's something you're really interested in, you know you're going to make an impact in it, then why not put in the extra work and try and make it happen? So definitely be willing to do research into something, and even if it's not easy to access, even if you have to pull a few strings, even if you have to message people on Facebook you don't necessarily know, there are so many different ways to get information and research more about it and determine if it's something you'd be interested in pursuing and shadowing someone and learning how to do further. So shadowing someone is another thing that I highly recommend. This is a little bit easier to do when you're still in college, but I don't think anyone would ever say no. I think that the only time someone would say no is if it was like a company where there's a lot of information that you would have to sign an NDA to get behind. But either way, I don't think anyone would necessarily turn you down, especially if it's someone who's like a freelancer or doing something that is more one-on-one. When in doubt, go to a small business, because they are much more willing to help people. They may be a little bit harder to get a hold of, and they may be a little bit more schedule conflicting, like, whereas with a bigger business it's a little bit easier to get in with someone and do it quicker. If someone's a small business, they're probably doing more than one position and there's a lot going on, but I think you can learn a lot more from those situations because they are more hands-on, and they do allow you to do a lot more and see a lot more. So definitely reach out to small businesses. Say you want to be in accounting, reach out to a small business accountant. Like, those are the ways to get in. And like I said, the schedule may be a little bit harder to arrange, but you're going to see a lot more, have access to a lot more, and they're going to be willing to teach you more because you don't have the worry of like an NDA or something like that. They're just more willing and more public for the most part. So in addition to job shadowing, which I highly recommend doing, definitely be willing to try new things. Like I said, apply for new things, but also try new hobbies. For example, I used to paint. I never painted professionally. I talked about this in a previous episode, I think. I never painted professionally. I never got lessons. But in high school, I just really enjoyed painting on my own time. And then recently, I got back into painting. And as soon as I got back into painting, my boyfriend was like, hey, I'm 3D printing stuff to sell it. I've been outsourcing so that someone else can paint it, but like, if you want to, you can paint that, and like, you can help make a profit off of this as well. And that would become like a side hustle. So had I not gotten back into it and really enjoyed it and kind of shown that I'm able to do the detail and the things like that, not even like discussing with him the opportunity of that, like just on my own time, getting back into it, and then him seeing that I'm doing it, I would have never like had that opportunity arise. So whether you're doing it for a hobby, whether you are job shadowing, whether you are talking to a career consultant, like especially if you graduated from college, they have people ready to help you find jobs, even if you're an alum. So I highly recommend reaching out to them. But regardless of what you end up doing, trying new things is very important. If you write down all the things that you like on a vague level, like a very, very broad list. So maybe you like talking to people, maybe you like problem solving, maybe you like being creative. Make a list of all of those very broad things and see what jobs align with that you may not have considered originally. So problem solving, talking to people, and being creative could mean that you own an art gallery. But that could also mean that you're in sales and you do creative problem solving. Like, there are so many different things that you can apply those different traits to. So you definitely need to consider all of your avenues and see what you would potentially be interested in doing, because the options are out there. It may just take some thinking out of the box to find them. And also talk to your peers. Your peers are a much greater resource than I think people realize. They are going through the exact same thing you are. Maybe they knew from the get-go that they wanted to, again, be a nurse or a doctor, but maybe they didn't. Maybe they are also struggling, and people don't really, I think that the rise of social media has made it harder for people to be more vulnerable, especially with struggling, like when it comes to not knowing what they want to do, because we all feel this pressure to be perfect at all times. And so even with your closest friends, maybe they're telling you that they love their job, when in actuality they hate their job and they are looking for an exit route, but they don't know what they want to do next, so they're just like sticking there and silently struggling with the task of figuring out what they want to do. And you also have this going on, but you haven't talked to them about it, so you guys don't know. So definitely talk to other people, maybe their peers, like I said, maybe their mentors. Talk to people who are in a field you think you would enjoy. Ask them how they got there. Ask them how they knew it was the position they wanted. You have so many resources that maybe people don't consider to be everyday resources. Like maybe they don't consider them widespread, like messaging someone on LinkedIn who's in a position you want to be in. Maybe people don't consider that to be super common, but I know that a lot of people would love to talk to you about their position and why they love it and maybe why they don't love it and the pros and cons. I know in every job interview I've ever been in, I've always asked the person who's interviewing me, which is usually a manager in that department, I've always asked them what are the pros and cons of the role. Like, what are the 3 things you love and 3 things you hate every day about your job? Like, the 3 things you love the most, 3 things you hate the most, or maybe 1 thing you love, 1 thing you hate. 3 is kind of a lot, so it depends on how much time we have. But they love to talk about it, and it gives me an idea of what a day in their life would look like so that I can decide whether I would want to be in that position, I would want to work for them or not. And I think that's super helpful. A lot of people think that when you're in a job interview, they're interviewing you, but you forget that you're also interviewing them. So if you feel like it's a role you're gonna hate, don't take it just because they offer it to you. It's both, it goes both ways. If you're gonna be miserable, if you don't like it, if it's not the right team and you want to do that, but you feel like you wouldn't do well with the team, maybe ask more questions. And if you feel like it's a no, then it's a no. Like, the world is not going to end if you turn down a job offer because you feel like it's not what you want. In the end, it's actually probably way more beneficial for you than sticking with that job, hating it, and being stuck there forever. After you do all those things, I think that it's important that you know that it's okay for your forever career idea to change. Like, you could think that since you were a little girl, you wanted to be something. Since I was a little girl, I wanted to be a vet. Around teenage years, I decided vets would have too much loss. I didn't want to be the one to lose an animal, whether it be to their own illness or whether it be to euthanasia, like whatever it may be. I didn't want to be the person to have to make that call or to lose an animal or something like that. So then I kind of went down the avenue of physical therapy, genetic research, welfare research. Like, I went through all these avenues, and eventually I ended on, maybe I just like having pets. Maybe I just like riding my horse. Maybe I don't need to do this as a career. And at first it was kind of heartbreaking, and I'm not closing the door to equine completely. Like, I still have that degree. I think that I still could potentially do something with it in the future, but doing it in like a medical way, I don't think that's for me. But instead of being heartbroken and thinking, gosh darn it, like I really wish this would have been my forever thing. Like, yeah, it's upsetting that I spent all my years dreaming about it, but in the end, maybe not, because that's like still time I spent having a highly ambitious goal and working towards it. Like, I can pivot just as easily to another very ambitious goal. So I don't know. I think that there's nothing wrong with changing your career path and saying, whoa, 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 what I thought I wanted to do is totally different than what I actually wanted to do. And I think that it's important to realize that instead of saying like, oh, I wasted all my time wanting to do this. I have to stick to it and kind of being in denial about it, because this is the rest of your life. It should not be a decision that's taken lightly. It should not be something that you feel like, well, I don't really want to do this, but like they offered me a job, so I don't know, like we'll just see how it goes. Like, I'm not excited, I don't want to do it, but we'll see how it goes. Like, that should not be your mindset. You should be happy. You don't know how much time you have left on the planet. So while finding your career is a process, like I'm not where I want to be yet, I made sure that what I'm doing along the way, I enjoy. Like, I like what I'm doing. I love the podcast. I have so many friends at my work that I get to see every day. Like, there are moments of every day that I am so grateful and elated that I get to do what I do. And while my end goal has not happened yet, I know that I'm taking steps to get there and having fun along the way, because if everything ended tomorrow, you only have the moments that you have. Like, you don't know when everything's gonna just come to an end. So make sure that you are enjoying the process to get there. You only know what you know in that moment, so don't hate yourself for thinking that something was right for you and then realizing it's not. You can listen to yourself and you can understand what a yes and a no is, and you can really, really lean into that. But at the end of the day, you can't hate yourself for making the decisions you make, and you can't be hard on yourself for making the decisions you make, because as I stated, you are doing the best with the information you had in that moment. So don't be so hard on yourself. Take a deep breath. Take all the time you need to find yourself. I think that finding who you are as a person is the best way to find who you are in a career. You won't really know what to do career-wise until you figure out what to do within yourself and you figure out who you are, what you want, and what your goals are. So take the time to do that. I know that this all feels very stressful, and it almost feels like everyone puts a timer on you and everyone puts pressure on you to figure it out immediately, and oh, you're gonna end up in your parents' basement if you don't figure this out tomorrow. But there's actually nothing wrong with that for a short term. Like, there is nothing wrong with graduating, living with your parents for a few months while you work and figure out what you want to do. You do need to be doing some sort of way to provide for yourself, whether that's working in a coffee shop, working at Best Buy, you know, whatever it may be, doing something that allows you the time to discover yourself and what you want while also providing for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with living with your parents for a few months while you figure it out. Don't live with them forever. You need to get on your own feet at some point, but allowing yourself the opportunity to discover yourself and what you want is so important. And I think that people really, really act like it's not as big of a deal as it is. Like, it's literally the rest of your life. And like I said, your career path can change. You can do something for 5 years and then realize you hate it and keep growing and keep evolving. There is nothing wrong with that. No time doing something is time wasted. But be honest with yourself. Don't be in denial over what you do and don't want, and take everything as it comes. So I hope that this was helpful in some way. Definitely let me know if you enjoyed this episode, if you found it beneficial, what else you want me to talk about. It could be career-wise, it could be college-wise, it could be relationship-wise. Whatever you want me to talk about, just let me know. I'm always open to hear them. Like I said, don't forget to follow on whatever platform you are on. Leave a like, a comment, a rating, a review, all those things. Share with a bestie who you think would benefit from this episode as well. I upload every single Sunday and Wednesday, so I will see you on Wednesday in my next episode. If you are watching this on the Sunday night it comes out, I hope you have a great night. If you're watching this at any other time, I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, or night. And I'll see you guys later. I love you guys so much. Bye!
You was the first